Good morning. We'll call the Kansas County Health and Human Services Committee to order. You got your information in your packet or an email. First order of business this morning is to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I will make that motion.
Commissioner Nissen moves on the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
Commissioner Gardner seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. So we have a general business discussion and updates. Kathy, you're up first talking about home and community-based services. Welcome.
Good morning, welcome. So,
Kathy, could you state your name and?
it's Kathy Nelson, and you know what? I moved this earlier because it was picking up everything I was saying. Kathy Nelson, I work with Kansas County on home and community-based services, supervising that unit. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the home and community-based services unit does. Again, just as a slight refresher. Then I want to talk a little bit about staffing shortage impact and some hope for the future in that. And last, I'll end on a little bit about case management redesign, only because it's concerning. This will be some really launch years for creating what case management is going to look like in the future. Okay, so let's get started. This is my staff. So instead of them all sitting here, there you go. There they exist, and that is some transitions that had occurred last year when we dropped the Blue Cross Blue Shield contract. But this is who they are and what they do. So the first service I'll talk about is our Rule 185. And again, this is just refresher, reminder. Rule 185 is a case management function. It is to serve people with developmental disabilities who come to Kansas County and say, I would like this service. I want somebody to help me advocate, navigate resources, and better serve our child or loved one or whomever it may be with a developmental disability. Next, the waivers. So the most of the work that we do in our unit is in regards to waivers. Waivers are funding streams, basically, are services that help keep people out of a facility of some sort. So as you see, the CADI waiver is a nursing home level of care waiver. The services are in place to keep a person out of the nursing home and living in the community. We have then CAC is hospital level of care, BI, brain injury, is neurobehavioral or could be a nursing home, DD, developmental disability, to keep a person out of a ICF, intermediate care facility for persons with developmental disability, or the elderly waiver, and that would be your nursing home again, but over 65 programming. Okay, so point in time numbers, I just put those out there for you to see. And the last one is our foster homes. So those are it says CRS, the community residential services. Those are now the adult corporate foster homes. So start with the SILS services. SILS services are a service that help people maintain independence in the community, and it's people who are not on a waiver. So they're either not eligible for MA, or they choose not to take medical assistance for a reason, or they may take medical assistance, but they just don't want the waiver. So they could receive SILS services to help them remain in the community. So SILS services, these services, we have 8 clients being served currently. So when you saw that we had 23 Rule 185 clients, like I said, not on the waiver, 8 of those are receiving this SILS service in order to maintain in the community. The others might be children, and children are receiving maybe just some advocacy with the school or other community type services, so they wouldn't be looking to this. We have 4 providers that we contract with as a lead agency. And the funding, 85% of it comes from the state, and we have to have a 15% county match. And as you can see, that is the current allocation for SILS.
Excuse me, Kathy, sorry to interrupt you, but you've mentioned the word waiver about 5-6 times already now. Can we talk a little bit about a waiver?
A waiver is the services to keep people out of a facility. So it's kind of the waive of them being, so they don't have to be in a nursing home or in one of the other facilities. And so they receive a waiver, which is the community services. It means they have to be eligible for medical assistance and they have to be certified disabled.
And how do we decide whether or not someone, and maybe we don't, but how someone is eligible to be waived in a private home with contracted services versus a nursing home or a
Right.
assisted living?
Yep. That's through our Min Choice unit. So what they would do is they would call our office, do an intake with Min Choices. They'd meet certain criteria within the intake, even to get a Min Choice assessment. And then the assessor goes out and sees what they're eligible for.
Okay, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yep, that's a good question. So the services, this is the large variety of services for which a person may receive while on a waiver. And again, they have to be eligible for the service, so there has to be a determined need. They don't just receive these. And then they also have to want it. They may want one type of service, but not another. They might be eligible for respite, but have no desire to have respite or have informal supports in place to provide respite. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about a minute or two was the staff shortages. So just like all of us have seen, we go to a restaurant, we have to wait in line longer. We may or may not be served anymore. You may punch your stuff into a computer now or whatever it may be. So there's been some changes because there are not enough workforce to meet the need. So we've seen that within the services we provide also. And I've just given you a slight example of what that might look like. So they might be wanting to work in the community, but needing to be in the center more often because there isn't enough staff to be able to allow them to work in the community as often as they wish. Or they might be served 2 days a week instead of 3 days a week. Or they might be waiting for a service because there's no provider to provide that service. Okay? Our community residential services for our foster homes, this is some of the impact we've really seen this last year. Is we've had a couple of providers have to actually close down the houses. We've had some actually suspend. They close the house down, but they're suspending in hopes that this crisis will be alleviated at some point. They can get the staff, they can reopen. We have beds that just aren't being filled. They're saying, we're not taking anymore. We don't have the staff to serve. We have increased reports of maltreatment or reports of some neglect or reports of case plans not being followed, et cetera, et cetera. We address those reports. And just to let you know, providers are doing the best they can. We get calls from them. They're creatively trying to problem solve. And as you can see, open the want ads, they're aggressively trying to hire and recruit. So what is DHS doing with this? Well, DHS has tried to do some pay increases for PCA over the last few years. They've done some rate increases on a rolling calendar for our service providers. There continues to be legislation brought forward to allow pay increases or increases for services. They, right now, I think legislatively are looking at having like a pool of workers that can maybe go and help out in emergency situations again. And then improved access through technology. And that's where I really wanted to spend a little bit of time today. Our providers our DHS has done some recent training for us. And I'm going to show you 2 videos to show how technology might alleviate some of our problems for staffing in the future. So let's hope Kathy can do this well.
Annie just didn't want to live with anybody. She wanted to be able to make her own choices. She wanted to be able to go shopping when she wanted to. She wanted to go to bed when she wanted to.
I go out shopping. I go out to eat. I like to do a lot of 5Ks.
I'm sorry. I'm not seeing this.
We did look at group home quite heavily. When Allison brought up this apartment and the technology, and it just seemed like a good fit.
In our 24-hour care, we had a number of individuals that had come on board with us that were probably overserved. And realistically, they didn't need to have staff there all the time. And we just kind of thought, okay, let's start something new. And then we started working with the company Syngistics.
We have kind of a multi-stage process. The first stage is working with our project manager and really figuring out the wants and the needs of the sites and then tailoring specific equipment around that. After that, we hold what's called a kickoff meeting. The kickoff meetings really are a time to go through the strengths and weaknesses.
There we go. And we can start. IBD is a good fit for them or not. And we're able to give.
Annie just didn't want to live with anybody. She wanted to be able to make her own choices. She wanted to be able to go shopping when she wanted to. She wanted to go to bed when she wanted to.
I go out shopping. I go out to eat. I like to do a lot of 5Ks.
We did look at group home quite heavily. When Allison brought up this apartment and the technology, and it just seemed like a good fit.
In our 24-hour care, we had a number of individuals that had come on board with us that were probably overserved. And realistically, they didn't need to have staff there all the time. And we just kind of thought, okay, let's start something new. And then we started working with the company Syngistics.
We have kind of a multi-stage process. The first stage is working with our project manager and really figuring out the wants and the needs of the sites and then tailoring specific equipment around that. After that, we hold what's called a kickoff meeting. The kickoff meetings really are a time to go through the strengths and weaknesses of the person served and develop a very personalized plan.
When a client is looking if IBD is a good fit for them or not, we're able to give them the options of what's available for starting with their apartment, of what area of town would they like to live in, and then going to here's all the technology options available. We'll talk about the door sensor, we'll talk about the bed sensors, the med sensors, and how they can utilize the 24-hour staff so that they are able to live in their own apartment. And then with the team, we address the areas of concern. One of the biggest things we do to start that conversation is we have a readiness checklist that covers all of the areas where you or I or anyone would need possible supports in or areas of strength. We go over that with the team and make a plan of how this is going to go. So when Angie started using technology with CCRI, her team really wanted every form of extra support put in place, making sure that we used all the technology available.
Utilizing technology in collaboration with the provider and the existing workforce that we do have can allow those individuals to work more efficiently, provide supports in new ways, in a number of instances continue to allow a provider to grow in the areas and the types of service they're able to provide.
How can we help sort of pull staff back from sites and make their time on site more meaningful?
When Angie first moved into the program, she had lots of different technology. Through time, we've taken away some of her sensors.
At the beginning, staff probably had to call daily, and now it might be once a month. Staff are going to give her a call for that reminder. But she has gained that independence and that routine that it's almost like she doesn't need it.
More often than not, we find once people get this room to sort of run that they really take the ball and go with it.
The relief off my mind that I don't have to worry about her 24/7. I don't have to worry, I wonder what she's doing tonight, or is she okay?
The people that are able to live independently with this program, it's been awesome watching them succeed.
At a time when most universities look like this, the founders of Walden University saw a chance to rethink the classroom. Their vision would spark a revolution in distance learning and inspire us to pioneer on.
Which was developed by United Spinal. I wanted to spend a couple minutes in this video demonstrating how technology allows.
And
hello and welcome to NADEX. This is the biggest disability convention in Europe, and we're here today to look at some really great adaptive technology. So let's get in there and have a look.
is this the video? This no, I mean, this might be a good one. I don't know, but it isn't what I want.
It's just good to see that I'm not the only one that has trouble with these sort of things.
You can learn just about anything you need to learn on YouTube, though. Just
Yep.
Is that not the video?
Yeah, it is, but it doesn't. Control click maybe. Try that. See if that works.
Always works good at your desk.
Yeah, it goes much better at my own desk because I can do it differently.
Mr. Chair, as long as we're just paused here for a moment, just talk a little bit more about technology. It is changing so fast, and for the county and stuff to be up to date on that, it's really important. But now they're out there with Alexa, for example, you could just drop in on somebody anytime or hear what's going on, and they sell a little robot on wheels now with a little telescope and a camera for less than a couple $1,000s. Or far less than that, and you can just check on somebody or check on your own home if you're not there. It'll go around to the different rooms and you program it like those electric vacuums they have nowadays.
This one is only a couple minutes
Hey guys,
long.
it's Ian Mackay, a C2 quad out of Washington State. I'm a proud member of the Technology Access Group, which was developed by United Spinal. I wanted to spend a couple minutes in this video demonstrating how technology allows me to stay productive during these times of social distancing. Let's start with home automation and computer access. Hey Siri, good moment. Hey Siri, turn on office lights. Hey Jesse, exclamation point. New line, new line. I'm loving your merchandise ideas, period. Let's talk more about them on Thursday, period. Hope you're happy. In my home, I use Siri to control my lights, shades, thermostats, and more. The access these features provide allows me to live an independent, productive life. I will always require others to assist me. But the more control I have of my environment, the more confidence I have in my life. However, I am a nature lover at heart and do some of my best working and thinking in the outdoors. My passion is to get outside and spend as much time on the trails as I can. I have not missed a day of trail use in nearly 4 years. I use Strava to record every mile. I'm also able to send emails on the fly, successfully run my nonprofit, conduct Zoom meetings, and make countless calls to associates to keep business moving forward. However, being productive involves so much more than success in the business world. It means being efficient so you can balance your recreational, business, and romantic life. I'm able to send a loving message to my girlfriend, go out birding, or pursue other interests that would otherwise be unavailable to a person with high-level paralysis. Solid mobile technology ensures that you are not confined to your home.
Lose belly fat, stop doing cardio. This sounds backwards, right?
I knew that.
There you go.
I stopped doing that a long time ago.
Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And now I want to get full screen again here.
If you do,
Okay.
click at the top, the slideshow.
The slideshow.
Yep.
Sure. There we go.
And from the current slide will work.
Okay, here we go. Like I said, easier at my desk. So that just gives you a taste of what technology we've been demonstrated can provide. We have some clients with some technology. We don't currently have anybody to those extremes. But obviously, it's opportunity for the future. And like I said, DHS has had a lot of education and training in regards to technology, and I'm hoping that we can continue to incorporate it in some of the homes and services we currently provide to help alleviate some of this current shortages we're dealing with. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about case management redesign. This is all the forms of case management for which DHS administers. They're funded in different ways. TCMs are funded on a monthly hit. The waivers are funded on a 15-minute unit. Some of the others are funded in 15-minute unit. So what case management redesign, the hope of it is to have consistency across counties. So if you went into our county or you went into a smaller county or into a larger county, what you could expect from your case manager would be similar. Right now, a lot of it is dependent on what the county can offer in regards to services or in regards to personnel. So they're doing the work of redesign. They have a strategic plan really looking at people. How do we advance equity and reduce disparities? How do we look at service redesign, simplify services, and how do we look at technology? Some of the current technology DHS offers us needs some updating and needs some work because it's either slow or it's very tedious and cumbersome. And then finance. Looking at finance and how do we not only finance case managers, but how do we finance the services? And how do we make sure they're effective and efficient? So as you can see, the purpose of redesigning and the barriers that were listed, those were all listed and based on surveys they had done and some of the research they did initially in the project. And I think you've heard of these things probably been being presented to you before, in how a lot of it is confusing. A lot of it is overwhelming or cumbersome, and the training isn't. What I would say the training we get, it's very philosophical and high level and why something's important, but it doesn't get into the meat of how do you implement and how does it really work with people. So things to watch for. How are they going to fund it? How are they going to fund case management? And then how are they going to get to true transparency and equity across the state of Minnesota? When you think of, like I said, some very, very small rural out in Minnesota counties, outstate, and then you have these bigger metro counties and different, funding. I mean, right now a lot leans on county levy. How do they level the playing field a little better? And then true simplification. We've heard simplification over and over and over again, yet we're not seeing it translate into practice much. And then, like I said, training for implementation. So I want to leave you with what is the goal of case management? And it's really truly to assist people and families to access formal and informal services and supports that help achieve their goals and meet their basic needs. It's about health and safety. So as you can see, it's to support quality of life. How do we get to that and have it be equal across the state of Minnesota? And like I said, now over the next year or two, the meat and the real work is probably going to be done. The background work is done, a lot of surveys. There's a draft out there currently. But now to pay attention to what is really going to get into place and hold DHS accountable to really make sure it meets the goals of what they're trying to accomplish in this. So that's where I leave you. Is any questions or?
I have one, or maybe it's a comment. I don't know. So with all this technology, you're obviously able to do remote type of visitations, and then that would save a lot of drive time and also gas, I'm assuming, correct? I mean, and so how far back can you cut like the actual face-to-face time? If you do that, is it like a third or a fourth of the time you go see them? Or, I mean, obviously you probably have to still see them face-to-face from occasionally, right?
Right. I think there's a variety of proposals being brought forward to DHS. My recommendation is to at least get in there once a year, depending on, do you have providers going in on a pretty regular basis, or what is all going on? One of the things we have found is once COVID alleviated and people were going out and doing face-to-faces again, sometimes some things have deteriorated that we didn't know about. I mean, think again, how would your loved one articulate to you over the phone how things are going, or via Zoom, in comparison to if you actually got out to the home and saw how things were going? It can look very different. So I think between us and the Min choices, there has to be some face-to-face, but what that has to be, I think, is going to be case dependent.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Burke.
A couple of quick questions you were talking about earlier on in your presentation about staff shortages, and I'm assuming that's not because you can't find staff, but we just need staff and be able to fund those staff. Am I correct?
Right. Well, they can't find staff. I mean, there isn't enough people wanting to do the jobs that are out there.
Oh, that's what that's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to clarify. So.
Yep. They advertise a lot. They're doing bonuses. They're doing a variety of things. It's really hard, though, when you think of the type of work we're asking people to do in inserting somebody in their home or in a group home or wherever it might be, maybe working shift work or not hours that are always pleasant, not doing always tasks that are pleasant. And you can work at McDonald's or you can work at a grocery store and make similar wage. I think people are choosing the other right now.
So I know we want to get to the other presentation, but you talked about technology as potentially being not the answer, but the assistance in the workforce shortage. Right now, I believe the county is responsible for providing the staff to carry out the needs. Would we also be responsible for financing the technology that might replace that staff, or has that even been?
That is available through the waivers, through those, federal waiver dollars. There is technologies available. It isn't available in other funding sources. So unless you're private pay and, you have a fair amount of money to pay for that, but depending on what the technology need is too. I mean, we have a lot of people who have lifts in their vehicles. They have wheelchairs that are developed for them. You've seen the vehicles that can drive all from the steering wheel. So there's a variety of technology that are already in place. Lots of people have technology. It's just increasing is what I'd say. I loved the second video, and what all he was able to do. But yet he probably has staff that come in daily to set him up and check on him and get things going.
Even as simple as a wheelchair ramps, I suppose, to get you into your house. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Workforce Development Grant. I think you guys got cut off last time, if I'm not mistaken. So we want to make sure that we give you enough time to present today. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting us come back again. My name is Denise Kragenbring. I am a supervisor in public health. Okay, Mary, where is it from here?
What would you do without Mary?
The file folder on the bottom, please.
Oh, that file.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It was too easy. So we did come before you earlier and talked about one of our other grants, the Healthy Housing Grant. Today, we want to talk with you about the Workforce Development Grant. Is that there right? Okay, perfect. We're not asking anything from you today. This is just informational, so it isn't anything that you have to approve or anything like that. So this particular grant came about through the federal CDC, the Public Health Crisis Response Cooperative Agreement, and then through MDH. So we had the opportunity to apply for this grant for some funds. The intent was, as you can see on the right in that little box there, it was really intended to, train, sustain local public health workforce around supports of COVID-19, the community throughout COVID-19 and recovery process. So being, we were pretty much past the prevention mode, but looking at prevention in future pandemic situations and preparedness, response, recovery, and to really support public health. That was the intent of the grant. The funding for the grant goes through June 30th of 2023. Together, the RCHB, so again, these grants, when it comes through the Department of Health, Minnesota Department of Health, we're looked at as a CHB, so the grant is for Candy Ojai and Renville. So we were awarded $160,000, 112 of that came to Candy Ojai, 48 of it to Renville County. So some of the options or things that you could ask for grant dollars are listed here. So first of all, it all has to be pretty much tied to COVID-19 prevention, preparedness, response. It could be used to hire new staff. It could be used to train the staff that you have already in the supports around COVID-19. Could be used to assist some gaps in our plans and our strategic plans. So we could also use it a little bit in that area in looking at our community as a whole and what some of our gaps are in the community and the community needs around COVID and more generally speaking, we can use it for. So we looked at things a little bit differently between the two counties. Here in Candy Ojai County, we decided that we were going to hire. So we hired a community health planner. I'll talk a little bit about her in a little bit, and she's going to share some of what she's been doing for us so far. So a 0.6 FTE, so she's here 3 days every week. We also decided we were going to do some training for the staff that we have. So as we went through this, whole pandemic, we had some really good plans already put together and some really good job action sheets, but everything evolves and changes. And so, as we are recovering, we'll be looking at all that, we'll be making changes, and then we will be retraining staff on, any changes and any new staff that have come through since we did a lot of our planning and action within the community. And then we also intended to do some emergency preparedness trainings out in the community, focusing particularly on the communities of color. Renville looks a little bit different. They were using some of the grant dollars to fund their EP coordinator that they already have, moving it from a 0.2 to a 0.4. Also doing similar training with the staff that they have. And then they intend to develop a community impact assessment and using that in their county. So the heart of our grant is the community health planner. So Ashley Chavez is who we hired as our community health planner. She started in January of this year, 2022. A little bit about Ashley. She interned with us during our response to COVID, so she was very involved in our drive-through clinics and doing a lot of that work and helping during that time as she was completing her bachelor's degree in public health. She also, during that time, worked on a health equity data analysis. They call those a HEDA, working, particularly her HEDA report was around mental health in high school students. Right now, she, besides working with us, is also working on her master's in public health. So she is actively doing that with the University of Minnesota. You can see some of her other accolades. Previously, she was a diplomacy lab researcher at the U.S. Department of State and a general psych lab instructor at St. Catherine's, where she did her undergrad, her BS in public health. She was awarded by the Minnesota Economic Association and Minnesota Federal Reserve one of the high-ranked economic communications for her undergrad student paper contest in 2019, and PPIA Public Service Weekend Fellow at Carnegie Mellon University with a top selected public interest technology policy submission. So she came to us with great experience and, just lots and lots of skills. So we're very, very happy to have Ashley with us. So I'm going to let Ashley present the rest of the discussion here at what are some of the things that she's already done for us and some of the things that she has discovered along the way. So, Ashley.
Welcome.
Hello,
and,
good morning.
She really built you up. You're gonna have to prove that now.
Yeah. Well, good morning. I'm Ashley Chavez. I'm the community health planner in public health. So as Denise mentioned, I am very well-rounded in public health. That it has been my passion since I started my undergrad and growing up. I am lucky enough to be able to come back to my home county. I grew up here in Wilmer, and it's always been my drive to come and serve my population because it is important to give back to who gave you first. So with this role, I have gotten the chance to do many, many things in the very short amount of time I've been here. So the first thing, I came in first day and I had my first assignment, and that was to distribute the at-home test kits that were the QuickView brand. We received over 315 from MDH to give out to our population here. And we were to report that, and we had a focus on giving it to people who may have more economic challenges and are maybe not able to get their own test kits or get tested for any economic reason. And we were looking at giving it to people who are of the communities of color and those who have disabilities, because we do know that there is a health equity difference between serving populations who are more marginalized, and we wanted to focus on those groups. Besides that, I also started quickly working on the N99 Mask Distribution. We received over 5,000 or about 5,000 of those, and we had a really successful event back in early February. And so I helped with this planning. I helped with being there on the grounds, giving masks out, and we distributed over 4,000 that day, and just continued distributing as people needed it. It was really great to hear from the community how impactful that event itself was, as there is still many people who are looking for masks, people who are wanting more security, and we were lucky enough to be a shining light for some of those people. Besides that, I did get another test distribution event that MDH sent us out to give out the eye health COVID rapid tests. We only received about 270 as we started seeing that the demand for COVID tests was going down as we are very getting towards the recovery portion of COVID-19. And I am still currently distributing. We did distribute 150 of the 270 test kits that we received. Besides that, I had been working with our CHB in conducting our community health assessment, doing our research, doing analysis, and I'm in the process of coming up with interview questions to get out in the community, learn from them. There's nothing more impactful than hearing from our community and hearing their direct experiences. We have seen a lot happen in the last few years since our last community health assessment. And so it's really important to hear from our community what has been changing and where can we meet them. So I did create a Qualtrics Survey. That is a software that I am very used to using for analysis, for data, and it has been very successful in that capacity. So I am working on getting in contact with different business owners, different people in the community, leaders, just to hear back from them. Where can we improve? But the main thing I want to talk about today is the COVID-19 community assessment that I am working on right now. So we were contacted by U of M medical student early on in my time here. Her name is Carolyn Lissenhop, and she came out to us asking if there is any way that she could be part of our COVID-19 response now that we are in recovery, and how she wanted to look into how do people in the community look at vaccinations? What are the attitudes behind them? Where can we improve for future responses if need be? And so together we created this evaluation. This was something we made in person in paper versions, so we could give it to the Lakeland Clinic here in Wilmer. We are still working on getting that communication with Caris Health to allow us to do it in person. But we do have an online format of that survey. I created it once again in Qualtrics. It's once again a really, really great software for data analysis. And I ended up making it in English, Spanish, and Somali to meet the needs of the language barriers in our community. This survey is 14 questions, and currently with our English version of this survey, as of when I created these slides, we had 83 responses, and to today, we have 107. 107 is a really good amount of people responding to evaluations. It's really hard to try to get even 20 people, so to get 107 people responding to this is really impactful and gives us a lot of insight. So some of the data I have presented here is from some of the questions I helped create, and on the left-hand side, we have the questions of how concerned are you about getting COVID-19? How important do you think the COVID-19 vaccine is to protecting yourself? And how safe do you think the vaccine is for you? So in the red is, in the red wording under these questions are the percentages that were of the most impact. So for the concern, it seemed that a little over half of our participants said that they were somewhat concerned, and 27% of them responded that they were very concerned about getting COVID-19. Following that, about 66.25% of our respondents did say that it is important for them to get a COVID vaccine to protect them against COVID. And still, even then, 62.5% also responded that they thought the COVID vaccine was safe for them. Beyond that, I did ask a general question about how many of our participants were vaccinated through the different amount of vaccinations available. And 12.5 of our participants were not vaccinated, while 87.5 were, with 65% of those being boosted with over 3 doses. So some of the top influences to get or to avoid getting a COVID vaccine, to get the vaccine were family, employers, and medical professionals. Family definitely was the most impactful between the two questions of getting a COVID vaccine or avoiding getting a COVID vaccine. So that comes back to how we have these conversations within our community. And you can see that just those top 3 influences there, and they kind of do follow along that it's all about community. So on the right-hand side was asked if they did not receive the COVID vaccine, like the 12.5 that responded that they weren't yet, how likely were they to still consider getting a COVID vaccine? And about half of them still responded that they definitely would not get it, which is perfectly okay for them to respond in honesty. But there is a glimpse of hope in seeing that over 16.67% said that they still would definitely consider getting a COVID vaccine. The probability overall in this question of people still considering on getting a vaccine is 31.57%, which is still very impactful. And it is questions like this that kind of pushed me to want to do this survey, just because we are seeing numbers dropping, but how can we still meet that percentage of people who still have those questions, still are worried, and are wanting to keep themselves and their families safe, but still don't know how to find those resources. So the last question that I want to share with you guys is, how much did the people who responded to this survey agree with the following statement? The statement being, I have a responsibility to get vaccinated against COVID-19 to protect others. This was a question that both the medical student and I, based on our academic backgrounds and just different conversations we've heard around the community, we felt being very important to ask. And 68.35% of our respondents say that they strongly agreed that they had a responsibility to protect others by being vaccinated. And those who did not agree fully with that were 20.25%. So we can see that people do care, people are caring, and we are seeing in our numbers that as they are dropping that our community is working hard on moving forward. And this is just a small glimpse of the impact that COVID has shown. And luckily with the community health assessment that we are conducting, we still will be getting some input on how COVID has impacted those within their employers, their health, any other health conditions, housing. So we will be hearing more from our community in that aspect. But just one of the things that we were able to use to move forward being the vaccine, we felt like it was important to get input in that because we do know and we have seen that it has been impactful in the numbers that we've seen. But yeah, thank you.
I have a question. Sorry, I'm going to let Commissioner Gardner go.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ashley, first of all, welcome and welcome back to the community. Everything indicates that you're a shining star, and we're very fortunate and blessed to have you here. These numbers are just from an English-speaking population. I think I'm going to be really interested in seeing what the variance is once you start getting more responses from the communities of color, because I know that we tried to make some outreach during the COVID-19 outbreak into our communities of color, and I think we all kind of feel like we did okay, but not great, and so that's why I think it's really important to have you on board to help spearhead this. And thank you so much for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Garner. I did want to make a note. I have been looking at the numbers of how many people have been responding to a survey thus far, and as I did mention, I do have the Spanish version and the Somali version, but it still seems that a lot of people are responding within the English survey. So I so far have not gotten any in the direct Spanish version or in this direct Somali version, but I am seeing numbers within the English one that we are seeing. So I look forward to getting more information to share.
Other questions? Well, you answered my question with Steve, so thank you very much.
Glad I could help.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, as you were presenting, I don't have the right chromosomes for multitasking, but I did manage to download that QR code, and it was very easy to do. But it's the first time I saw it, to be honest. So.
Well, thank you for
very
letting me
much.
know. Yeah, Qualtrics has been something I've been advocating for within public health, as I know how effective it is to use an easy method to survey. It's so hard sometimes to look at some of these surveys and go through pages and pages and pages of questions, and just feel like it's overdoing it sometimes. And I felt like it was important to be concise and use plain language and still make it kind of fun and make it easy. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Commissioner.
And my quick glance at the questions, when I was in college in the 80s, I was surprised to learn that surveys are science, and they have to be done correctly in order to be effective. You see so many things today that have leading questions in them that direct what the answer should be. And this was seems like a very good survey and easy to answer, so.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for my education that my focus has been on evaluation and research. As Denise mentioned, I am working on my Master's of Public Health right now in the sector of policy. So questions and getting information from community members is really important to me, and I hope to continue using my skills to the benefit of the county, as I know it's important to get information.
Once again, thank you for being here today. I think we need to move on and give us a little break before the meeting. But before we adjourn the meeting, Commissioner Berg handed me a letter that he received from the Department of Human Services. It says, "Dear Commissioner Berg, it's my pleasure to commend you and your staff for perfect performance in meeting the Department of Human Services, DHS, financial reporting requirements for calendar year 2021. So congratulations to all the staff and all the bean counters to make sure that everything got done correctly. With that, we will adjourn.